Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. So the last video I did where I made just a completely ridiculous character for Pathfinder 2nd edition did pretty good and got pretty good reception. A lot of people seem to like it, so let's do it again. So just as a recap, by a ridiculous build I mean something silly, not overpowered or broken, just a silly build. This is just a fun little diversion, a build to tide us over until we get a bunch of news from Gen Con 2024. But before we get started, my dear audience, I present the Humble Club. It costs you nothing to get, does a respectable D6 damage, and is a bludgeoning weapon. And after a harrowing encounter with ochre jellies, I am convinced that bludgeoning weapons are the best weapons in the game. Plus, and not enough people realize this, clubs are throwing weapons. Sure, they only have a range increment of 10 feet, but that's still an emergency ranged weapon in a pinch. But what if we could make clubs better? This, dear viewer, is a build I like to call the Elven Clubchucker. So as always, when making a character in Pathfinder 2e, we start with the ABCs of character creation, and A stands for Ancestry. We are going to go with Elf. Elves start play with low light vision and a one-time bonus of 6 extra HP. They normally get a bonus to Dexterity and Intelligence and a free boost with a penalty to Constitution, but let's eschew that for the alternate bonus of 2 free attribute boosts, 1 to Strength and 1 to Dexterity. For their heritage, and this is important, we need to grab Ancient Elf, which gives us a free multi-class dedication feat even though we are only level 1. We do need to meet the attribute prerequisites, so we will need to end up with a wisdom of +2 or better because we are going with Cleric Dedication, specifically a Cleric of Halkmora, the Imperial Lady of Gardens, Parks, and Wineries. Cleric Dedication gives us training in both the Religion skill and, because we worship Halkmora, the Nature skill. We can also cast 2 Divine Cantrips, which we can change up at the start of every day. We also get an Ancestry feat. I'm envisioning an elf that started life as a cleric, but something happened that made them dejected and lose faith in their church, not their god. So let's go with Forlorn Elf, though really almost any Ancestry feat would work here. Moving on, B is for background. Like I said, I envision this character starting life off as a cleric in training, so let's go with Acolyte. That gives us a bonus to Intelligence or Wisdom, let's go with Wisdom, and a free boost which will go to Strength. We also get trained in the Religion skill. Now, we are already trained in Religion, so we get to pick a new skill to be trained in, let's go with Athletics. We also become trained in Scribing Lore and gain the skill feat Student of Canon, which means we cannot critically fail to decipher a religious text, and we are better at knowledge checks about our deity, Halkmora. C is for class, and we are going to go with Rogue, specifically a Ruffian Rogue, which means that our key attribute is Strength. Rogues are automatically trained in Stealth, and Ruffian Rogues are automatically trained in Intimidation. They are also trained in an additional number of skills equal to 7 plus their starting Intelligence modifier. I'll put the ones I chose on screen now. You may choose something different. The only skill I do highly recommend is Thievery for disarming those traps. Rogues, of course, get Sneak Attacker and Surprise Attack, but the thing we really want to get comes from the Ruffian Racket, which is the Rogue subclass. The Ruffian Racket allows us to sneak attack with non-finesse, non-agile, simple weapons like the club that do up to a D8 damage. It also allows sneak attack with some martial weapons, but we don't need that. Also from the Ruffian Racket, we are proficient in medium armor, and that armor proficiency gets better at the same time as our light armor proficiency gets better, so that's nice. For our class feat, any level 1 rogue class feat is fine. Personally, I'm leaning towards Trapfinder, but there are other valid options too. The rogues also get a boatload of other stuff. I'll put them on screen now. And finally, we get to boost 4 different attributes. Let's go with Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom. Note that our Wisdom ends up at +2, so we still qualify for that Cleric Dedication. For equipment, we're going to want a club, of course, as well as some armor, probably hide. I'd invest in a shield for some extra defense, an adventurer's pack, and a thieves toolkit. Leveling up at level 2, we get a rogue feat, and skill increase. For our skill feat, pick up whatever you want, but Pilgrim's Token would help us go first in initiative, which is good for a surprise attack. For our skill increase, I feel like Thievery is best, so we can help boost our middling dexterity for disarming traps. For our class feat, I'd highly recommend Strong Arm, which doubles our club's throwing distance to 20 feet, which is actually pretty respectable. Remember, the club is a throwing weapon, so we can apply our full +4 strength bonus to damage when throwing it or swinging it in melee. At level 3, we get Deny Advantage, which means it's harder to get us off guard. We also get a General Feat, and Skill Increase. For our General Feat, let's grab Toughness to help us boost our mediocre hit points. Let's then increase Athletics, and though it is unlikely to come up in most campaigns, Underwater Marauder would be funny for our ability to use our club effectively underwater, including throwing it. Maybe. Wording's a little unclear if Underwater Marauder lets you throw your club underwater. It's up to GM interpretation. At level 4, we get a skill increase, skill feat, and class feat. For your skill increase, pick your favorite. I'm going to up religion as we are still a religious character. In fact, let's double down on religion, and for our skill feat, let's grab the additional lore feat for Halkmora lore. For our class feat, we're going to want to trade that in for the cleric feat Deadly Simplicity, which, since Halkmora's favored weapon is the club, means that our club now does a D8 damage. We can now attack with melee or ranged clubs that do a D8 damage and can still sneak attack with them. So yeah, this is the basis of the build, basically a rogue that has a shield and who is sneak attacking with the equivalent of a throwable warhammer. At this point, I think the best idea is to grab a thrower's bandolier, which can hold up to 2 bulk worth of throwing weapons, so 2 clubs. What's more, you can place weapon enhancement runes on the bandolier, which then transfers to the items that it's holding, so you can put a striking rune on the bandolier. That way, if your club gets sundered or destroyed, all you have to do is pick up a new one for free and move on. Inscribe a returning rune on that bandolier and your throwing clubs come back to you. Even if you don't find a returning rune, the bandolier lets you teleport all bound items back to it. It's not great action economy, but it's better than nothing. Other than that, just grab the normal rogue items, better armor, better thieves tools, so on and so forth. And yeah, that's the build. At level 6, I might grab the Quick Draw Rogue feat, which lets you draw and throw your club from your bandolier as a single action, and from then on, the build is up to you. And there you go, a quote rogue unquote who is sneak attacking in their medium armor with a shield and a D8 melee weapon that has a throwing increment of 20 feet. I just find it silly that you can make a simple wooden tree branch more deadly than a longsword, arguably, as it does the same amount of damage and you can chuck it 20 feet against ranged enemies. Gets a chuckle out of me, and while certainly not the best build out there, it's by no means bad. So that's it for this build. What did you think? Personally, I like the idea of a rogue who throws their club for a sneak attack, then strides up, flanks you, and sneak attacks you again with his backup club. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!